That crazy Necromunda swashbuckler is back.
Spiky bits.
Welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. I'm Baer from SpikyBits.com. And he's back. Kal Jericho coming in hot this week with his own figure. Again, this actually isn't the first time he's come out with a figure. They did a diorama special limited edition send in for it with a self-addressed stamped envelope in the proto-internet days or early 2000s from Black Library. This, I hope, probably will be much better looking than that miniature. Memories. I'm sure you can check it out over on eBay if you really want to get the first one too, if you're really into Kal Jericho from the old Warhammer monthly comics, and I'm sure he has some trade paperbacks as well. Accompanying him is the new expansion book or new campaign book for Necromunda. Lots of rules in here for a bunch of different things that we'll go over it. I don't play Necromunda, but I was reading through it and I was like, this is kind of cool stuff. I mean, it'll slow your games down a little bit probably, but Necromunda seems to be more of a narrative side, and I'm sure for the competitive players, there's ways to kind of, not use these optional air quotes rules and such, but obviously check with the person running the event. I guess there's no arbitrators in that or anything like that, but it's pretty cool stuff. And going along with that, they also have the Bad Zones environment and event cards. So there's 26 cards in here. They're pretty much the standard. I think it's 75 by 100 mil size. There's card sleeves packs for this available as well. That you can get to protect the cards, which you're probably going to want to do because their card printing is, the edges get pretty messed up pretty quickly. You can get, I think Mayfair Games makes an 80 mil by, I want to say 120 or something. It's not quite as comparable, and they're like $10 for 50 of them, so you might as well spend the $12 for the sleeves they put out with the Necromunda symbol on them. Conversely, they're also the same size as the Titanicus stratagems and missions as well. So I'm going to pick up a pack of those because I forgot at the game store for my Titanicus stuff. But if you're looking for to protect these cards for Necromunda, which they seem pretty neat, that might be a thing too. So $12 for that. I think these are $15. Kal Jericho is $35, and the Book of Peril is clocking in this week at $37. So let's take a closer look at, Kal Jericho. This isn't the Kal Jericho you're looking for. No, I didn't want to reset the camera quite yet because I'd have to zoom in and I'd have to zoom out and change all the stands and things like that. So we're not doing that yet. We're going to talk about this brand new supplement book. So here's the contents. And of course, we saw this already on Warhammer Community, but we're scratching our heads. And if you play, you probably didn't know quite so much what the stuff was in here. But let me just run it down real quick. So there's going to be a section in here on some new special characters and such. I'm not sure. Actually, no, that's these guys. Okay, let me back up. Let me retract. So you're going to have a section in here, and I actually forgot what this front section is, so we're not even going to talk about it. And then bringing in bounty hunters as gangs themselves, which I don't think has been done yet because we've seen plenty of bounty hunters and such. And then splattered throughout this whole book is the newest bounty hunter models, including Kal Jericho and Scabs. So they just kind of intermittently just put them in the middle of sections. It's really weird, and it didn't make sense. And I was like, why are these guys here? And then I realized maybe they're just filling space or something. I don't know. But there's rules for taking whole gangs of bounty hunters here, and a couple of these guys are actually in the section. Kal Jericho and Scabs are actually in the section right here. Venator, I think, means hunter in Latin, so that kind of explains why that is the way it is right there. Alliances, and there's also new models, or excuse me, they're not models, they're just like a couple of 2 or 3 different individuals that I think can actually go run with your gangs, and they're like sub-gangs in a gang. It's like gangception. We'll talk about that here in a second when I show you that section. Guild representatives, same kind of deal. I don't know enough about Necromunda to speak coherently on that, but I'll show you that section just so you're aware of it. You're probably going to pick this book up anyways. Who am I kidding if you play Necromunda? But at least you get a little bit of a preview. The thing I think is pretty neat is the trading post where you can pick up new gear and stuff after it, and there's a whole run of new gear, and they give you the war gear and the weapon traits in the back of the book right here. And some of them you got to roll for and different things, which seems pretty neat. It almost feels like very Mordheim-y to me. kind of like back in the day. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then generating your bad zones, the actual battlefields themselves, and then the events, and then they go through all the events, which are also the cards right here as well that are available this week. And then weapons reference charts for some of the stuff that's available here, war gear and such, like I said, from the trading post. And then it goes into, you know, these guys all splattered about. So let's just kind of run through it real quick, because I really want to talk about Kal Jericho. He's pretty fun. So okay, so that was just background lore. That's right. All right, and then you get to this section on the Venator Hunter Gangs. Like I said, whole gangs of hunters right here, and they explain how all that works. And of course, you can probably just hit pause and check it out. Make sure you turn it on HD. It's not always on HD 1920 by 1080. Sometimes it is. And then the hunters and campaigns, and your leaders, and all sorts of different fun stuff right here. And then it's, you know, throws in some random data sheets for Kal Jericho and Scabs. And then it goes into the alliance section, and then it talks about that. And then it goes into the guild section, which I thought was pretty neat. Guild representatives and kind of how they're like sub guilds, the sub gang within a gang. So it's gangception right there if you take them. And then they have different bodyguards, and they kind of have like different rules on how hits go to not these people, but their little bodyguards and their little representatives and stuff. So there's one for each of the guilds, and then it gets into like, I guess toll collectors are guilds. I don't know. It's some weird stuff in here. And again, just randomly appearing is data sheets for the guys. Again, same deal. This is the bad zone battlefield. So you can generate a bad zone battlefield based off this chart. Or I think it is roll a d6, and then you have the 6 of the cards right here, just for quick reference. So if you know, it's kind of neat to have these. I like game aids. I like having them on a tabletop and being able to keep track of things. And then it goes into each one and what they do, all 6 of them. Again, random duder, just in the middle of the table. And then it goes into the bad zone events, which are right here. You know, well, that's a bad zone environment card. And you've got shutdown, and there's the shutdown card, and it, you know, kind of goes into all the different things, additional effects, discarding, and you could just roll a dice if you wanted to. You don't need to buy these, but it's kind of, like I said, it's kind of cool to have on the tabletop. It might be pretty neat. I forgot to talk about this too. So this section, where is it? That's all. So that's all your random events. Then it gets into bad zone terrain, where it actually starts to really classify a whole bunch of different pieces of terrain. And it's like, hey, you know, just make sure you're all playing with the same rules, which makes sense. Gets into bad zone scenarios, which are basically missions and such, as far as I can tell. And so there's a bunch of those, like 6 of those. And then it gets into the weapon reference chart, and there's your last, I think, appearance of a duder. Bad zone reference charts, like if you get an Archaeotech device, then you roll on this chart and it does things. And more gear. I thought there was a weapons chart. There's definitely a weapons chart in here somewhere. Anyways, take my word for it. There it is. There is a weapons chart in here. So that's pretty much the book. It's about 90-some-ish pages, so a small codex format. It's got the nice little bookmark cover thingy right there. So I can see where a lot of folks are definitely going to want this for all of the, you know, flair and flavor to your Necromunda games and campaigns. And here's Kal Jericho and Scabs. So forgive me for doing it out of order, but it was just better that way for recording purposes. So you get 1 sprue, you get the 2 bases here for Kal Jericho and Scabs in the instruction manual. It doesn't take up a whole lot of space on the sprue. Not that I'm super surprised by that. And, you know, they're doing all the computer slices and dices and things like that, which we're about to see right here. So here is all of the parts that make up Kal Jericho. There really isn't any conversion bits. It's all computer slices. It looks like right down the cape, so we'll have to probably use some gap filler and such. Over here, I don't know. These look really flat, and it's very vague on the instructions, so I'm not sure exactly how well this is going to go together, but I'm hopeful that it goes together. Like I said, there he is right there. I feel like it should go together pretty well because, well, it's not that many parts, let's be quite honest. The one thing I did notice right here, there really isn't a barrel or anything for the plasma. It's kind of flat, so I was a little concerned about that. But I mean, as far as detail wise goes, let me get that. There we go, get a little light on the matter. So as far as detail wise goes, I think it's all there. I mean, you've got a nice big flowing cape, you got the plasma coils, This says it was made in the UK. Of course, the book and the cards were made in China, of course, developed in the UK. But we all know, if you're not tracking what's going on with the whole China tariff situation, definitely Google that when it comes to tabletop wargaming. Throw a little spiky bits at the end. You might get a few articles or two. So it looks like Scabs is kind of over here, and Kal Jericho's kind of over here, except for his swords right there. Everything seems to go together a specific way, so not a lot of conversion parts. I guess the only thing that's left is to actually put it together and compare it to some other models. And here he is. So Kal, I gotta admit, I was a little concerned at first, with the design of things and the way they laid it out in the instruction book, and I was kind of right to be a little bit concerned. It's a challenging build for not a lot of parts. I feel like the design and the instructions was kind of phoned in a bit, but once you get it together and get it into position, you're gonna have to do a lot of dry fitting. Probably more so than you would expect. I definitely didn't expect 2 models to take as long to assemble as they did, but that's where we're at. That's the world we live in. And so just be aware of that. Don't rush it. Take your time with it. Get all your mold lines shaved off and everything like that, because it may frustrate you. It frustrated me a bit. The gaps up here where the braids hit the bottom of the braid on the body right there is a little frustrating to line up correctly. So if you're off just a hair, just very, very small amount, it will cascade down and mess you up a bit. Now there you can easily see the mold lines, which aren't, or the gaps, which aren't hid very well at all. Normally they take a little bit better care with that on the design side. So you're definitely going to want to pick you up some of this Vallejo plastic putty to fill that in, let it sit, and scrape it away. It's 100 times better than liquid green stuff for gap filling, no shrinkage, and it just works good. It's more gooder. So there's Kal Jericho. It's very well detailed. Very, it looks good. I'm sure when some paint on it, it'll look even better, but just a little frustrating. Now here's how he compares to something like a Primaris Marine. Unfortunately, I don't have any Necromunda miniatures on me right now, but I guess you can kind of get an idea about size just by these comparisons with a Deathcore mini and a Primaris mini. And here's Scabs, little scallywag. So he's a little bit smaller. He's like a Deathcore Krieg Duder size-ish right there. And I'll be honest, Scabs was a little frustrating to put together. All of his areas are very flat. Nothing is easily lockable, position-wise. This little skulls right here is probably too small. I almost broke them off. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I drilled out the barrel on the plasma. It was very poorly designed on the front of the plasma gun. As far as plasma guns go, not impressed. This seems very phoned in, like I was saying. And over here, there's I don't know how to make that any better. Like, his stoma is supposed to be there, but there's just a huge gap. Everything else fits flush. So I really don't know why that didn't work, to be quite honest. Not my best work, but I did what I could with the design I had in front of me here right now. So I don't know if it'll turn out any better for you. Definitely dry fitting is the key here, and not put pressure on any part, because you never know what might actually snap off. There should be a tool for tolerancing and pressure points in their design software. I feel like maybe somebody forgot that. I don't know. And tolerances and things, because I don't know what's going on there or why. Maybe it didn't fill on the mold. I can't really say, but that's the best I could do, and that's what it looked like, how it looked like it should go. So buyer beware on this one. I feel like maybe it was just a bad sprue. I don't know, but we did what we could, and that's where we're at right now. So that's it for this one. Thank you very much for watching our review, unbox, and build of the new Necromunda expansion and Kal Jericho and Scabs miniatures for Warhammer 40k/Necromunda. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you're the very first to like and comment on all our videos.